realizing the first time I had like influence when I was working at the amusement park. I went to Casey's and some kid came out to me. I was high at the time. And I'm like, this 13-year-old kid came out to me and said, like, I watch your videos. I'm like, I need to do better. That's where like a lot of the character development is helping so much, because like I want to be a good influence on people, because there's so much like negative in this world. And that video got 35 million views and I took it down.
That's crazy though. Like one, that it got those views, and two, that you like took it down. That's wild.
I took down like 400 videos because I was not in the best heart posture with this video. We took like a 5-month break on social media so that we could just like really just dig into our character development. I'm only gonna make videos if they come to me, and like videos that like I want to see that will actually more have an impact on somebody than just like make them laugh while they're on the toilet.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Snod. It Rhymes with Odd, and you're listening and watching the Rhymes with Odd podcast, where we talk all things business, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Today, we have another great interview for you guys lined up. We have Taylor Hereid. What's going on, man?
Oh, dude, it's doing really good. It's a pleasure to be here.
I just botched your last name, didn't I?
I think it was good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, we were just talking about this earlier. I'm like in my own head. Okay.
Did way better than a lot of people.
Sure. From the guy with the weird last name, welcome to the podcast. Yeah. So Taylor's here with his girlfriend, Kayla. Nice to meet you. She doesn't have a mic, but we might reference her throughout. So if you hear another voice in the corner, it's not a mouse that's talking to us. It's another person. But today's conversation is going to be really interesting. I think you have a really neat career path and kind of what you've been up to. I would categorize you as like a social media influencer, content creator. And I think your path has been really interesting. So I'm really excited that you made the trip to Des Moines to come talk to me today.
Yeah, dude, I'm really excited to do this. This is actually my first podcast being on. So like we talked about, a little bit nervous, but yeah, I'm really excited for this. I've been looking forward to it a lot. Like I've been telling her, I'm like, I'm so excited.
Sure.
Because I listen to podcasts all the time. So I'm like, I would love to do that one day.
Sure. Like be the person people are talking to. Yeah. And I know my wife always says like, why do you listen to podcasts? It's like talk radio. Like this is so boring. But I'm like, only if they're talking about stuff you don't care about. But if it's like topics that are interesting, then it's interesting, you know?
Right. So, or if it's like quality, valuable things that you can apply to your life.
Sure.
Like it's not just entertainment.
Yes. And I know like with your story, I think there will be a lot of value in terms of like the personal development stuff, the soul searching, the building you internally. Because I think it's something that most people just pass over. It's like, what are you doing? Not like, why are you doing it? How are you building the skill set? So I think that'll be fun. To kind of give people a backstory, I know we both went to Simpson College.
Yep.
That's where I first met you, because I know you were in the marketing or management track there.
Yeah, I did marketing, communications, and business management.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it's super wild, because so I graduated, and it was a year before you or 2 years before you?
I graduated in May of 21.
Oh, okay. So I must have been 4 years ahead. I was in 2017.
Yeah. You actually went to college with my sister.
Okay.
Yeah. I asked her if she knew you, and she's like, I know of him, but I don't think I ever met him.
Yeah. I mean, names are so bad with me. If they show me their face, they're probably like, oh yeah, like recognize people. But it was super wild, because I remember I graduated, and then that first year after, I was shooting a conference video for Collegiate Entrepreneurship Organization in Tampa, Florida.
Yep. Shot
this video, and I show up at the after party. There's like 100 people there, and there's a group. I'm just bouncing around talking to people, and Taylor's over there, and I'm like, hey, what college are you guys from? There's people from like Wisconsin, from like Michigan, from Arizona. They're like, oh, this little small college in Iowa. I'm like, oh, really? Which one? And you're like, Simpson. I'm like, get out of here. I just graduated from there like last year, and you guys like quit pulling our legs. I'm like, no, really, that's literally
what we were thinking. We're like, what are the odds of like just meeting someone from the exact same college?
Yeah. And then you guys didn't believe me, and I'm like, where's Marilyn Mueller? And you're like, okay, he's legit. He knows he knows what's going on. So that was kind of a fun, like, again, circumstance thing. But I remember after that, like we had kind of connected online, and it's been really fun to see like your journey, because I've also been kind of plugged into the fitness world and the content creation space. So it's been fun to see like what you've done in that world. Because when I first started doing videos, that's what I was doing, what you were doing or are doing, is like YouTube videos weekly on like what I was eating in college, my workouts, like lifting, form, like all that stuff. And then I had hung it up after a year, because I did a weekly video. And I had 40 subscribers on my YouTube channel after a year. And I was like, I don't think people want to watch what I have to say. So, but that spearheaded me into doing my business. So I think it's a unifier, kind of comparable track there. So
yeah, I was telling her, I remember when we were talking at the CEO conference, I just remember the interaction we had afterwards in the hotel room, and you were just encouraging me to like apply, try to get internships at like Alphalete, Gymshark, like those things. And I was like, I remember I was just so doubtful in my own head. I was like, is that even realistic? You know? But I just remember like that was definitely encouraging to even like just go for something like that.
Sure. I remember that too, because I just remember, like you said, the doubt that sticks out in my head of like well, I don't know. And it's like, you've got to really commit, because like, so you'll love this one. 2 weeks ago, I interviewed Holden Ogg, and he was the employee number 7 at Ghost Lifestyle in Chicago, and he was their creative director, like Dude, all their marketing.
I'm obsessed with Ghost's energy drinks.
Yeah,
and they're probably going to take me out of this world too early.
Yeah, there's I have a couple in the back that Holden brought for his podcast, but his interview will be interesting to you because he, like, they sent him files to edit at 10 p.m. To put together a hype edit, and he had to get on the road to go to the interview in Chicago at 2 a.m. So he was like driving, editing in the car, like trying to, and like crazy stuff. They flew him to Vegas, did all this stuff, like just to test him out. So it's like, you've got to seriously like put yourself out there and like be okay with just looking stupid or trying to get, like risking everything to get there. That'll be a fun one. I think you'll enjoy. But I think on this our conversation though, I think it'll be helpful if you could give us a little backstory about like who you are, where you're from, and kind of how this story started for you.
Yeah, so my name's Taylor Hereid. I'm from a small town in Iowa, Fonda, Iowa. It's kind of northwest Iowa. I grew up super small town. You literally know like everybody. It's kind of, and then you go to like a school like Simpson, you know nobody. That's also kind of like the reason why I went there. So I went to Newfonda High School. I played all those sports. That's kind of like my first introduction to like fitness and working out, even though I hated it at that time. So then I decided to go to Simpson in 2018. And I first did graphic design and business because I had a little bit of background in graphic design. But then once I started like taking all the classes, I realized this is kind of like a waste of time. So I went to Simpson for marketing communications in the end. And from there, I just kind of, we can get into the weight loss journey and stuff like that. But when I got there, I was a little bit overweight, and that's where I kind of like, this is a fresh start for me. From being in a small town, knowing everybody, I was like, I got to get out of here, know nobody. Put myself in a place where I don't know anyone, got to basically force myself to grow. And to get back into like my backstory, I'm the middle child of like 4 kids and my parents. But yeah, I played all of the 4 sports: football, basketball, baseball, golf. Like when you're from like that small town, you literally
like a 1A school, or
you literally have to like play all of the sports.
Sure. What was your graduating class size?
I think it was 47.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So like
my wife's was like 52. Like her high school was like cornfield. It's like, there you go.
Yeah, and then like I know my mom talks about, she's like, she went to Clinton High School in Clinton, Iowa. She's like, my class was like 300. I'm like, that's crazy. But yeah, so Simpson College, and then I graduated in 2021 with marketing and did a lot of entrepreneurship there in the CEO class. That's where I first got into like fitness, really discovered that like I like this, video stuff, messing with my camera. That's where I first got it. And just really kind of discovering a lot about myself, becoming an independent person, growing up a lot there, just really putting myself into like the environment where like I either have to grow or I'm just gonna be lonely and just know nobody.
Sure. And I would assume you're more of an introverted person. Is that pretty fair to say?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I, like coming on here, I'm pretty nervous, but forcing myself to like record myself on camera has definitely forced me to get out of that comfort zone. It's like get over like social anxiety. So definitely like getting used to that helps you talk to other people. Talking to a camera, you're just practicing like getting your thoughts together. But I think I like being an introvert too. Like it's one of my favorite things about myself. Sure. Because then I'm just like constantly like getting to know myself versus just always being around other people.
Sure. No, I love that. I think this is probably a good time we can talk about kind of your weight loss journey and how that kind of sparked your interest in fitness. Because you mentioned, did you start kind of this journey in college, or was it in high school that you started to be like, I want to lose some weight before I go to college and start this kind of new version of me?
Yeah, so in high school, like I said, I played every single sport. So my senior year, I kind of like peeled back and I didn't do a couple sports. So like there was a season where I was just working. I was working at Casey's. So you're just constantly in front of all this food. So you kind of just like you're not active anymore. So you're kind of just eating a lot more. And I didn't really like realize it until I got to the point where I wasn't like very big, but I was bigger than what I normally was used to. And I got up to like 210. And I was definitely like very self-conscious because that was the time where like started to get bigger, your friends start to like, poke at you, get jabs at you for your weight, start calling you a few things. And that was kind of put me in like I guess a depressive state where I knew like I wasn't satisfied with like there's a gap between where I am now and where I want to be. So like I had to like literally like have a conversation with myself. Like, this is not what we want to do. Like I was going to go to a couple different colleges. It was like Simpson, I think it was Waldorf to play baseball. And I'm like, I'm going to go to a place where I'm kind of familiar with because my sister went there, but also like I'm not going to know anybody. Like no one from my school is going there. I wasn't going to go to school like 10 minutes away. Like I also wanted to get away from, my whole family so that I was literally just by myself. So
Sure.
I did treat it as like a fresh start. So that summer I did start kind of working out. I would go play basketball a lot, just kind of like I really didn't really know anything about lifting because I hated lifting in high school because it was a completely different type of lifting. It was like training for sports. It was explosive stuff, like it was like military training.
Mm-hmm.
Like this ain't it. Like I would miss lifting and then get in trouble with the coaches for not showing up. So like once I started getting into fitness, I just wanted to get rid of the weight. I was doing so much cardio. I was doing high volume, like 4x15 on squats, just everything, just trying to get rid of the weight right away.
Mm-hmm.
But like once I did, I felt a lot more confidence about myself because once you start like getting those weight goals or even, losing weight or, hitting a certain weight that you want, you just kind of build up that incremental confidence. And then, so all of those adding up built confidence in myself, and those rubbed off at school. Like I was putting myself out there more to join more organizations, get more leadership things, just because the saying like look good, feel good, like that definitely applies because you just feel better about how you appear and also just the confidence from accomplishing those things. So like the first 9 months at school, I think I lost 60 pounds. So like losing 60 pounds that fast, I had no muscle. So I was just kind of like skinny. I'm like, okay, now that I'm like looking into all these other influencers online, I'm watching like Christian Guzman, Lex Little, David Lade, all these other people. And I'm like, okay, now I want to put on muscle. And putting on muscle after like losing all that weight, I was just weak, skinny. So I kind of started from like being overweight to just super skinny. It doesn't look like I lift at all. So from there, I just kind of started lifting like a bodybuilder. So like every winter, like to bulk, cut towards the summer. So I've been on kind of like just training like a bodybuilder, but I don't really have like a desire to compete. I just really like the setting a goal for like 6 months, like, okay, I'm going to gain weight and then I'm going to switch my whole mental goal to cut weight. So that's kind of like where I've been on. As of recently, I've been just kind of like going with that because I just like having like a direction to go. And then once I get to that point, like I said, just switch up and go in a different direction. But the things I've learned a lot from just the weight loss journey is like you learn consistent hard work, not just hard work, like consistent hard work, delayed gratification. You learn like discipline because motivation is not always there. Like you have to rely on discipline more than motivation. Motivation just gets you started. Discipline is what keeps you going. Mm-hmm. But I would say the most important thing is like the delayed gratification and the consistent hard work is like the most thing that I like to apply to the content creation because you're not going to make any money when you first start. You're going to suck when you first start. The same thing as like lifting. You're not going to see like the result right away. If you do, you're an overnight sensation, and that's like more of a miracle than anything.
Sure. Well, I think it applies to most things too, because like looking good doesn't bring the confidence, but it's like putting all the effort to look better than you did before is what makes you confident. It's like, I think that's the big piece of it with anything. It's like, I could give you, a Super Bowl ring and be like, here, you won the Super Bowl. And you'd be like, cool. Like, but you didn't work your entire life to get to the most elite point and then go to the last game and win the thing. And like, it's just a trophy. It's not the actual like mental development that you have to get there. So,
yeah, because like every time somebody wins a Super Bowl, they're instantly like, okay, next one. They're happy for like 5 seconds. That's another thing I learned is like, okay, I hit 10K on Instagram. Now I want 20. It's like you enjoy it for like 5 seconds and you're instantly like, next one. You're never like satisfied with like the reward. You're only like proud of like the progress you made during it.
Sure. So you went through this phase where you got really skinny. How long did it take you to start putting muscle on and then realizing like, I should probably document this online in some form or fashion?
Yeah, so I would say like I started making some like TikTok videos because I remember in like 2019, I used to think TikTok was the dumbest app I've ever seen because it's just like that's the era of like all the dances and stuff. But I started just seeing some people post about fitness, so it wasn't anything special. It was just like me doing curls and like putting 4x12 on it. Like it wasn't anything. But that's kind of like where I started my short form content and like the documentation of it. And then, sorry, what was the full question again?
It would just like how did you go from starting to put muscle on and then start documenting yourself in the gym?
So I say in 2021, after college, I was kind of like, you could tell I somewhat lifted just from like that season of COVID. All you did was lift because you couldn't do anything else with friends. So all we did was go to the gym. So I put on a little bit of muscle, but I would say like after my first like legit bulk where I just put on a little bit of fat and just kind of like got a little husky and just committed to the bulk instead of like wanted to stay shredded or stay a little bit lean. I wanted to get bigger, so I had to like sacrifice being lean to get to the point where I wanted to look like I had more muscle. So after that was like the first time where I was like, okay, like I actually put on a little bit of muscle from this because, a lot of times with like the fitness space, like you said, like the 2% body fat, staying shredded all year round, like that's not healthy, nor is it like you're not going to make any growth. You're just going to kind of stay the same. So I had to, and especially being like natural, you have to put on some body fat, like sacrifice being shredded so that you can get bigger. Because if you don't sacrifice being shredded, you're going to sacrifice getting bigger.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And for people that are listening that aren't into this stuff, it's like you said, when you commit to a bulk, you can't just like snap your fingers and put on 30 pounds of muscle. You have to like eat more, change your training. And then like you said, you're going to gain fat, but also muscle. So you kind of have to like yo-yo. You like beef up for a while, put on that base foundation of fat and then cut down again. And so it's like this up and then down a little bit, up and down. So it like takes years to do it rather than, 30, like all these stupid magazine ads, like 30 days to cut 6 pounds of belly fat specifically in your belly. It's like, what? Like you can't spot reduce fat. That's not a thing. So.
Yeah, no, like learning all these things along the way, I'm like, there's a lot of kind of like misinformation in the fitness space. So I kind of wanted to put some of that stuff out there. I wouldn't say like I put a lot of like fitness tips out right now. It's more of just like I promote the activity of fitness and just how it's like part of my life, not like all of who I am. But definitely like learning all those things are just like, yeah, you can't spot reduce fat. You can't just do all these different things just to lose fat. Like you have to put so much work in the kitchen because it's like, I'd say it's like 80% what you do in the kitchen and 20% what you do in the gym. It's not, it's like the opposite of other sports where it's like you put in all the work on the field and practice, then it doesn't really matter what you're eating. Yeah. So that's
because I did a natural show in St. Louis in 2019, and I 100% agree with that. Like the only thing I changed in my training was like doing towards the end of my prep, doing cardio every morning for 45 minutes fasted, or towards the end, it was just like at the end of my workout when I was so dead because I had to stack my carbs around that workout. So I'm like, this is the only time I can even stand up. I'm just going to get on the Stairmaster for an hour or whatever. But it changed everything. Like I lost like 30 pounds over my prep and had like abs for the first time in my life. But I'm like, knowing what it takes to look like that,
Yeah.
I was like, it's not something I'd want to do consistently for years, but I know I can do it. And that's the kind of the fun thing about doing a prep is like committing fully to it, you know?
Yeah, and you sacrifice so much when you're like trying to get to that point where you're trying to get lean. You're literally like, you can't have any sort of treats. Like at work, I remember like, oh, I can't do that. And then like you get a little bit of grief from people like, oh, it's just one thing. But I'm like, no, like I have a goal that I'm trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, you have to sacrifice so much for this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, when I worked in an office setting when I was doing mine, and people would always make fun of me because I'd have my entire bag of meals. They do donuts on Friday. They knew I loved red velvet. It's my favorites. They'd always get like a box of donuts, like 2 red velvets for me every time. In that hole for like 3 months, I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, Ryan, we got them for you. I'm like, can't do it. And I was like, oh my god. So then one time they like forced me to take them back to my desk. They like dunked them in like water so I wouldn't eat them and threw them in the trash because I'm like, even if I throw them in the trash, I'm probably gonna like fish it out and want to like eat it.
Yeah, you have
I
to
like sabotage it.
You have to have like so much self-control and just being able to like look at that and be like, nah, I don't need it. Like that's such a powerful thing to kind of learn. That's one thing like I remember like looking at food and just being like, it's not going to be worth it because you're just going to eat it, get a little bit of dopamine, and then you're going to be like, like I have to go to the gym now and do a bunch of cardio if I want to make up for that.
Yeah, it takes emotional maturity. Like I equate it to like my family does pizza night every Friday, which is probably going to happen tonight. And I've gotten to the point now where like I get like a pizza hangover the next day because I can't stop eating it. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I wake up, I'm all bloated, I'm oily, like I just feel sluggish. I'm like, I should have just freaking drank a case of beer instead of this because at least I'd have felt something better than the 5 seconds of yumminess on my tongue and then it's like gone, you know? Yeah. So I think it comes with that time, but it's also like people can obviously take it super extreme and have like really bad food insecurity or they're having like body dysmorphia and all the things that come with like being addicted to the gym and fitness, you know?
Yeah, I have like a okay relationship with food now, but I would say within the past few years it was like I would kind of get down if I was like not eating what I should have, or like when I'm bulking, you know, I have that natural chubby kid in me, so I'm like when I'm bulking, I don't know how to have the self-control or discipline to not eat too much. So like my first year, I didn't have to gain as much as I did because I was just eating like so much. I was just consuming so many calories that I didn't eat. So in the end, I had to like cut down even more. So when you like put on too much fat when you're bulking, you have to cut so much more weight or so much more fat. So then you end up losing more muscle. But now it's like I only gained 15 pounds this year and I just slowly kind of ate more, but I didn't like just overly indulge myself in this. So it's like when you're losing weight, it's either you have to eat in a caloric deficit or you're not going to lose weight. When you're trying to gain weight, there's really no limit on like what you want to gain.
Sure.
So you have to have that self-control to not overly do it.
Sure. No, that's great. Kind of talking a little bit like post-grad, going into your career path and kind of the things you did like post-graduation. Tell me a little bit about that. You graduate from Simpson. Mm-hmm. They screwed your name up on the podium. You got your diploma like I almost did a second ago. What happens? Talk me through that story for me.
Yeah. So in 2020, that's kind of when I started working with Arnold's Park Amusement Park in Lake Okoboji. I first started there that summer during COVID as an intern, which was very interesting during COVID because they're still having concerts and stuff, like spray painting circles so that people could stay in there and 6 feet apart, wearing masks outside. It was very hectic. So then I went back for my junior year or my final year at Simpson, and I kind of still did a little bit of work for them on the side. And then I went back the next year to be an intern again. So this last summer was kind of like me really working hard so that like they would hire me, but I had no idea if they were going to until like the last month of me being there. I had like a feeling that they were just because of like how long I've been there. They invited me to come back. But so that summer to get hired, I saw that like TikTok was blowing up, and I'm like, this place should be on there. You know, it's like an amusement park should be on here. So I saw the need that they didn't really have a lot of a presence on digital marketing, like with videos and stuff like that on social media. So I started just running with that. I was like, hey, can I start a TikTok account? And they said, yeah. And I just like kind of ran with it, started doing all these trends. You know, I just found a trend that people were doing and then just put my own twist on it to fit the amusement park. Started doing that.
What's a good example for like, just for context?
You know, I'm trying to think. You know, you find like a cool sound. I remember like one was like a Lightning McQueen sound is like, I am lightning. And it's like, you know, I did that with the raceway.
Yep.
So like just kind of trying to incorporate different trends that people are doing all around the app and just trying to fit the branding in there. And that first summer, I think we set the goal for like, I set the goal for like 10,000 followers. And then the other intern was like, we should set it for like 1,000. And that was like me being so ambitious. I was like, no, we're going to get 10,000. And by the end of the summer, we had 25,000 followers. So like that was really cool to not only like build or the awareness, but also like bring the community that already like went to Arnold's Park throughout the years, like bring them to the page. It was really cool to see how they already kind of had a community there. So it was a lot easier to grow on there because they had an established community from being an amusement park since 1889 or something like that.
Sure.
So that was really cool, and just kind of continuing to build that up and to mature my own content there, because I started out doing trends. I was doing original content. We were live streaming all the time because they did concerts, so we were live streaming the concerts. It was really, really cool. So they brought me on full time after that. And then, so it was just me and then the marketing director. So it's a super small team, but we worked with a outside marketing agency. So they kind of like filled in all the gaps that we didn't do. And that was very interesting, kind of like working with a whole separate team outside of the office when you're like in the office. So it's like learning how important communication is with a team when you're not in the same location. I just kind of like continued doing a lot of my video there. So I did video production, photography, graphic design, videography. Like you really kind of have to wear all of the shoes when it comes to like marketing on a small team. So, but very grateful for that, because then you learn and make yourself such a well-rounded marketer.
Sure. That's great. So you worked there for a number of years. You're still doing your own content outside of work. What were some of the things that you took from that role in a marketing capacity and applied it to your own personal brand?
Yeah, I would say just kind of like the storytelling, learning how important like storytelling and like, because I remember there's so much history there. So you just tell all these, you know, we had a book full of history, cool stories. I would just make a minute-long story out of all these things, and they would like take off, like blow up. And just really learning, one of the first things I learned was like the easiest videos that you would work on TikTok were the ones that went viral, which kind of sucked because you'd spend like 4 hours editing a video and it would get like 3,000 views. But then a video you use some silly sound behind, recorded it 5 seconds on the TikTok app, and it'd get like 4 million. And you're just like, what is this? So kind of like learning that was one thing that I applied to my own. So I started with my own stuff. I was making like the trends and putting a twist on it with fitness. But from that, I learned that wasn't really a content creator. I was just a content copier.
Right.
So maturing throughout the years to just only become a content creator, creating content that I want to create, not like what I feel like people want to see, and just copying trends, copying other people's videos. So that's kind of like how my content evolved over time.
That's such a powerful like realization though, because I fall in that same thing where like when I started doing my content on YouTube in college, I was trying to be Christian Guzman. I was trying to be Max Tuning. I was just doing what other people's, and that's a good place to start when you're trying to just like build the skill set. But then, like I mentioned, nobody cares about what some college kid and I was doing. A better idea would have been like, how do you make fitness funny? How do I be like the Terry Crews of YouTube and make like fitness funny? Like that would have been a good way to go. Or like, you know, was it Jeff Nippard that does Napard that does like
scientific
stuff?
Yeah.
Dude, he's like a PhD or something. Like that's his unique spin. Like Max Tuning was like, he wasn't even big, but he was a twig and he could power lift like 600 pounds. And like, he's just funny. Like there's things that make it stand out that's unique. And I think that's the piece where you said, how can I make this my own twist? But you can copy it, but to an extent, and then how do you make it unique in yourself, you know?
Yeah. So like, I would say up until like a couple months ago, I was, like I said, like the content copier. You know, I was making a lot of my own original content. I was doing Mike Duff stuff with Kayla. And that stuff was doing really well too. But I find myself like forcing things in the gym. You know, the gym didn't really become fun as much anymore because I'm focused on what can we do to make a video funny. And, you know, I started making I made one skit with her that I just thought it'd be funny. And it was like what happens when you're at the gym and your gym crush walks by. And so you're like sitting there, oh, I'm all tired, I'm not motivated. She walks by me and then it cuts to me just like repping it out. And, you know, that like blew up. So I'm like, okay, I took that same concept and I just duplicated it a bunch of times. And that's not even like really content creation. You're just making videos because you know it's going to get you views.
Right.
But it has no like value other than it's like funny.
Well, that's the thing too, is like and this is kind of a deeper question too. It's like, what does that give you other than that little, like you said, that little dopamine hit of like, holy crap, that's got 1 million views. Yeah. Like there's no value, right? I mean, what is like the point of the social media side of it is like what for you? Like why do you create online and why do you want to put out videos and make content?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of had like an entire like spiritual awakening like 6 months ago that's where we just started like indulging ourselves so much into, you know, growing our spiritual side and just kind of like the character development. And the reason I think I got like so attached to like, oh my gosh, this is getting so many views was like I had to like go back to like 10-year-old Taylor and be like, you know, do you feel like you're attached to these views because of like things of like, you know, you're stuck on the bench during a basketball game where you don't feel like you're seen or valued. So like when something you're doing is like seen by that many people, you're like, I love this feeling because of the lack thereof when I was like 10. Yeah. So I had to go back to like 10-year-old Taylor and be like, you're good, dude. Like people see you, you know, you're good. And so kind of like getting away from that, I took down every video that I made where I knew my heart posture was like, this is going to get views. Or that I kind of made with her where I'm like, we forced this kind of video.
Sure. Or, hey, Kayla, can you get your butt in the shot a little closer? Or can you get like can you like make me look cool or tough? Or like, you know, it's like try to do whatever you can to get someone to pay attention to you
like,
type of thing.
I've made some of those things where it's like what to do or how would you spot a girl? She's doing RDLs. You know, like I made some stuff like that. And that video got 35 million views and I took it down.
That's crazy though. Like that it got those views and two that you like took it down. That's wild.
I took down, I think like throughout all my platforms, like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Shorts, I took down like 400 videos because I was not in the best heart posture with this video. So now, you know, we took like a 5-month break on social media so that we could just like really just dig into our character development and like our, you know, really just learning a lot more about like the Bible and stuff like that, really just discovering a lot about ourselves. So now I'm like, I'm only going to make videos if they come to me and like videos that like I want to see that will actually more have an impact on somebody than just like make them laugh while they're on the toilet. Sure. You know, like that's kind of like where my headspace is now. So I'm more of chasing impact versus views because views does not equal value at all. Like that's one thing like a lot of people do is like I see it so much is like they find something that was funny that worked and then they just like keep doing it. Or people drop their like morals or their core values for the views. You know, you see people like a really cool story, you know, Jadion. He was a really big YouTuber who did like pranks and stuff. Like he would go out and try to like aggravate people, you know, for his content. He got up to like 7 million views. He was, you know, making millions of dollars. He deleted every single video, similar to like kind of like I did. And he's like, I'm done posting that stuff. And he like made a whole video like breaking down like, because he gave his life to Jesus too. So he's like putting in verses like, this is what I was doing. You know, my videos were wicked. He said, he posted a video of him breaking into, I think it was the Gatorade headquarters, and he had Prime hydration, and he was telling them that it was Gatorade. And he's like, this is our new flavor. And he was giving it to him so that the Gatorade employees would say that Prime was good. And he got 3 employees fired that day. So he made a bunch of money, got a bunch of views, but in the back end, he got 3 people fired for his own glorification, pretty much.
Sure.
So like, I think, a lot of people kind of get to that point where they're like, I'm going to drop my morals and values because they're getting views.
This episode is brought to you by my company, Snod Media Group. Do you like the look and sound of this podcast? Of course you do. It's awesome. There are a ton of benefits to having a podcast. Sharing content online, networking with high-value people, and being a voice in your industry, and the list goes on. If your dreams of starting a podcast have quickly turned into nightmares, realizing how much stuff you have to learn and understand to get a published episode out every single week, I'm here to tell you that I can make your dreams come true. As long as those dreams are podcast related. We are now taking rentals for our podcast room here in the Snod Media Group studio. Gone are the days of spending thousands of dollars and setting up all of your professional camera equipment and probably screwing it up, learning how to capture and produce a professional level show, and probably screwing it up, learning professional video editing, posting social clips on social media, having a distribution calendar, the whole 9 yards. It sounds like a lot because frankly, it is. And let's face it, who has time to do all that stuff anyway? My team and I, that's who. Let us take all of the stress of creating content off of your plate. Simply come in, sit down, record your episode, and leave. A couple days later, you'll have all of your files sent directly to your inbox. It really is that simple. Our quiet studio off the beaten path in Granger, Iowa comes complete with soundproofed walls, as you can see here, wood backdrops, as well as a neutral backdrop, and professional lighting. Utilize over $20,000 worth of camera, audio, and lighting equipment with this turnkey space. You can not only use this podcast room, but other parts of our studio to capture social media content or more conversational pieces as well. We have 3 different packages that can suit your needs and your budget. So let's bring those podcast dreams to reality. For more information about starting your very own podcast here at the studio, visit snodmedia.com/podcast. Now let's get back to the interview.
Sure. No, that's such a powerful thing. And I'm sure people listening are probably like, how could making videos online become some like terrible moral effort? It's just like this fun little thing. But like you said, if I equate it to like the Joker like movie where he's like painting the makeup on, like laughing in the makeup, like in the mirror, like I got to put a smile on because it's what people want to do. Mm-hmm. Like they say, dance, monkey, dance. So I'm going to dance and hit the chimes. And this is what I do. So I think it's interesting because it's all self-imposed. No one's got a gun to your head telling you make this stuff. But like you said, you get addicted to the attention because you're like, holy crap, And I think it's interesting because like with my content, I've kind of bounced around myself as well. But it's like I put out business stuff, but it's also like I would be more privy to do nothing but videos about like video marketing and like stuff that would lead people to hire my company to make videos for them so I make money from it, right? Mm-hmm. But there's other things that I'm interested in. So it's like I like try to give myself a little bit of room to be like, I can make a video about like productivity or things I've been working on or like my office build out because it's important to me. But I think it's something Gary Vee always talks about is like documenting, not just like creating, but just like document what's going on in your life. Because one, you'll never run out of stuff to say or do. I think what you're talking about, like this kind of like awakening, that itself is great content because it's even if people don't make videos and that's not their thing, it could be anything in their life. Like they're wearing skimpy clothes, going out on Friday or Saturday night to get attention. Mm-hmm. And that's the only reason they're out is just to get guys or girls to look at them or whatever. It's like, or they bought a flashy car and they go rev their engine through a college town because they just want people to whistle and think it's cool. It's like, stop doing stuff for other people that you're just doing it to self-inflate your ego,
Yeah. Like I want people to hear me and like hear the messages I have and not just see me. I think a lot of people, like you said, like when they buy that fancy car, it's like, do you want people to like hear you and know you? You just want people to see you. That's why you bought that car, because their value is in the things that they have, not who they are. Like there's a quote on the movie Lucy. Morgan Freeman was like, people are more are more interested in having versus being. And like I took that to like heart. I'm like, I want people to know who I am, not like what I have or what I've done or what I do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you look at like, and it helps that we're in Iowa, like of all places where I feel like people are more salt of the earth, but you go to these like superficial ecosystems of like LA, like you go to LA and it's like No one will talk to you unless they're going to get something from you. They can leverage your social status or your social whatever to climb the ladder, get a movie role or get in entertainment, whatever. It's like, it's so cutthroat and so transactional. It's not even real human relationships. Not even like, hey, how's your day going? Like, don't talk to me unless you're like a movie producer. It's like, okay, like one of those types of things.
And you pray that those people kind of get to a point where they're like, none of this is worth it. Like, this is not what the meaning of life is.
Mm-hmm. When I see other content that jumps out at me, and like, as a marketer, I can see it, like rage bait is super obvious. You go to like, my favorite place is like on my podcast TikTok account, I don't really follow anyone. So it's just all viral videos of like rage bait. And it's like, some person stole a car. There's a fist fight. There's a police altercation. It's like all the stuff that would just piss off anyone if you watch it. They've got an opinion. They want to comment or share it or whatever. And when you go down that rabbit hole, there's been times I've like posted on my Rhymes with Odd TikTok account, and I've like had a notification, so I stay on, logged in, as then I realize I'm going down this rabbit hole, and it's like, holy crap, I didn't even realize like this isn't even my personal account. It's just like what the average person sees. And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, no wonder everyone's like at each other's throats because all they see is this super negative, like connotation stuff of like bad social interactions or things that piss them off, or they just want to rage comment on things. It's like half the people are just making that content to go viral for their own selfish, needs,
Yeah, just to feed their own kind of, and I don't know if it's ego or kind of like for me, or it's like, this just feels good. It's just kind of like a dopamine hit. And like most of those people are commenting like negative things. I'm like, even the most positive videos will get negative comments.
Right.
Like,
I mean, there's been times, and I used to do this before, I would misspell graphics on purpose because there's always the Poindexter that's like, you misspelled that. And guess what? I got another comment, and then I comment back, oh, thanks for letting me know. And then someone else says like, wow, you're so illiterate and stupid. I'm like, no, great. I just have like 5 more comments on my YouTube video and it helped it grow. I would do that crap on purpose now. I mean, I still am really bad at spelling. So sometimes I screw it up on purpose, or on accident. But I think another interesting area is like, I don't know if you guys saw the super viral video a couple weeks ago that like this couple cut the soles of their shoes out of all their shoes, and because they wanted to like do grounding all the time. So just walk barefoot. So like, you can't walk in public without shoes or in a store. So like we put our shoes and just cut the bottoms of our shoes out, and they like made a little video. The video was 1 minute and 1 second long because they can get the creator fund money. And like 10 million views, 100 million views. It was some crazy amount of money. I did the math. They made like $7,000 in ad revenue from that one video. And everyone's commenting. I showed it to my wife, and it was funny because she's like, why would people do that? Blah, blah. I'm like, you realize they made this for you to say that. Like, they're not doing this. Like, no normal person with a phone would do this. Like, if they have a technology and the means to buy a cell phone, they can wear their shoes. Like, they're just doing this to get you to get pissed off, and it's working. Yeah. They're just doing whatever they can to get your attention so they can get that creator fund money and cash in. And it's like, that's so stupid,
Yeah, I've definitely like learning posting content creation is like, there's so many like negative people because they're filled with negativity. So they just spew it out in the comment section. And I've been so fascinated. It's like, if you don't like something you're seeing, just swipe.
Right.
Like all you're doing is, like you said, boosting the algorithm, making that person more money. And I've just been so fascinated with that. And like, people will make some positive video and somebody will leave some mean comment. It's mind blowing.
There'll be times especially YouTube, I'll get some nasty ones because I have like 17,000 subscribers. Yeah. I get like 30,000 views a month still on my channel. I do like maybe a video every 2 months still, but all the negative people that come for me. And it's kind of funny because a lot of times I'll ignore a lot of them, but sometimes depending on the day, I'll literally comment back and be like, hey, I'm sorry you're having such a terrible day. You felt the need to like try to ruin mine. Like, go outside and get some fresh air today. Like, and then they'll get even more pissed at me. Like, you don't know my life. I'm like, whatever, dude.
They're
like,
just mad you didn't give them another comment to say something mean about,
Yeah.
Like for YouTube, you've learned, like I started posting on shorts, and you learn that people are just ruthless on YouTube because they can be anonymous. It's not like Instagram where everybody has an Instagram. They post their own photos. They leave no room for you if you wanted to go look at their stuff, like something we set a couple like boundaries with social media moving forward is like, we don't look at comments. We don't even reply to any of them. Cause when you get so many good comments, the one negative comment will just tear your mood down. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, I don't even want to pay attention to that. I only want like I'll send a video to our group chat with, me, her, and my best friend. I'm like, if they think that video is good, I'm going to post it. And that's the only like validation I need. I don't want to even like be consumed with what people are saying.
Sure. No, that's a great point. To your point, even today, like I posted an ad for my podcast studio because people can rent it out now. So I posted it all over like Facebook and whatever. And I had a bunch of people like say good things about it. And then I had a guy from he works from another audio studio in town that commented like, kind of funny you're posting this with just the left audio channel on, like that you're advertising in an audio studio. And then I turned my phone sideways and it was coming out of the left channel only. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I felt really stupid. Yeah. And I was just like trying to be a smart ass. And then he would just like, yeah, it's like, so like just making fun of me basically and saying like, you should take it down because you're stupid and this is whatever. And it's like, I had like 10 great comments, one dude just trying to, get under my skin, and it was working. And I was like, oh my God. So I was like, not replying back. Like, I'm not even going to open social media today because I just can't, like, you can't allow that negativity in, because like you said, then you'll be like, well, the next time you're shooting a video, like, I'm not going to do this or that because I'm thinking of that one asshole that said that one thing, So I think that's a piece of it too.
That's like the biggest barrier that people go through when they're trying to post anything online. They're just the judgment from people. And you literally just have to like not care about what anybody says. Like, even the good comments, like they don't, even if it's a good comment, they don't even know who you are. So it's really invalid. So even just the negative things, it's like, you just can't feed into that. And that's that fear of judgment because because a lot of people like live for people's acceptance. So when they get rejected, it kills them inside. So literally that skill of just not caring about what anyone says, to an extent, like, literally is like a cheat code when it comes to posting on anything because you're going to get negative comments. Doesn't matter if you post the most positive thing, people are going to be like, oh, staged, cringe. It's like you can't win with those people because it's like the same concept of bullying when you're like a kid. Those kids are just negative. They got nothing but negativity in their heart, whatever they grew up with, whatever's at home, and they're just trying to drag somebody, if not to their level or lower than them, and they'll do whatever it takes to do that.
Sure. People love hearing your success until you're more successful than them. And then they're like, I don't like that because then now my bar is going to be raised or there's a pressure on me to like, that people resent rich people or hate them so much. And it's always funny to me because like I'll be in certain groups and they'll like just how they talk about wealth or people that have money. And it's like everyone assumes they just like inherited it or whatever. It's like 9% of money is inherited. It's not that, especially in America. Like people don't want to hear that you can go, like they went out, they worked for it. They they built a business, they did real estate, whatever they did. Now they're where they are. People don't want to hear that because then they're like, well, crap, that means that I could do it too. And then I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to make up some BS excuse. And, it makes a lot of sense that way. I know as we're talking through this, like people might not understand, like you mentioned you weren't making any money from social media in the beginning. What was like the first way you started making money from all the attention you were getting online?
So I honestly still to this day have not really made anything. I've made like $250. And, I've had a couple opportunities. Like I got emails every single day of like random opportunities to do. But really, just setting like the guideline, the boundary, like don't promote anything that you don't believe in or already use. Like I did one post for some CMOS thing. I thought it was suitable for my audience because it was like health based, and I honestly like regretted it, and I'm pretty sure I deleted it because I only did it because they were sending me money, and I don't even think I used it really, and just kind of like that moral compass inside me was just like you shouldn't have done that because you're promoting something that you don't even believe in. You see so many people just promote whatever just because they got a dollar amount behind it. But I'm definitely like working towards making money. That's why we started Volumes to kind of like, instead of representing a company, like why not own it and make money for yourself?
Sure. Did you guys do like any sponsorships or affiliate marketing or any other things that you did before you, did you do any of that stuff as you were starting out?
For Volumes?
Just on your own social media. Like, were you like a supplement affiliate or were you doing like a brand affiliate or sponsorship, or did companies send you stuff to wear or use or rep to kind of get the attention?
So we definitely have had a couple different like meetings with people, different supplement companies, but really just looking for like that company that like fits with who I am. If I even want to be like connected with these people that are already sponsored by it. If I actually enjoy the product, like we've been sent a couple products to try, we're like, it's okay, but I wouldn't spend my own money on it type of stuff. So, I just not only signing with somebody just because of the cool opportunity, like, oh, I'm going to be an athlete for this company, just kind of waiting for like the things that actually fit who we are and like what we like. Just not really like jumping to the first things that come, just kind of just waiting, but I'm kind of thankful that I haven't, because it just proves how much passion I have for it. Like, I'm not just doing this to make money. Like, I do this because it's my passion, it's enjoyable. So like seeing that throughout all these years of making content, like just shows that how much easier it's going to be when I do start making money.
Sure. Because tell me, did you start another brand before Volumes? We'll talk about that in a second, but tell me, like, as you're kind of toying with social media, the entrepreneurship side, like what were some early things you did early on to kind of test the waters with that?
Yeah. So earlier we talked about like the CEO club or at Simpson College. It was like a whole organization. So through that, as I'm getting into fitness, I'm like, okay, I also have this like itch for entrepreneurship, and just kind of like that lifestyle. So I decided to start my own fitness brand. It fit right into like what I'm doing with social media stuff. So I started a small fitness brand called Gear Athletics, and just kind of like learning the ordering process, talking to manufacturers, staying up late talking to people on Alibaba, and just like trying to communicate with people from China, doing all the marketing for it, taking photos, videos, just kind of like the whole process of it, being literally, like I said, wearing all the shoes just helps you learn so much more. Like the company ultimately didn't really do anything. Like I didn't really make much money, but just kind of like seeing a vision, but also trying to bring it to fruition was like such a good learning curve for me in college, because I probably learned more doing that than I did in those classes that I was taking, because you're getting it from experience, you're hands-on, you're working on this all the time, you're doing a whole bunch of other things. But one of the biggest mistakes with it was the name, because in fitness, the term gear is steroids.
Sure.
So once, I wasn't too familiar with all the terminologies and all the, even just what the world of steroids was like when I first got into fitness. So I'm starting to get DMs from people like, hey, do you sell, gear or steroids? And I'm like, okay, why are they messaging me this? And I figured that out. But ultimately, like I said, like when you get out of college, you have so much more bills and stuff. So I decided to kind of like shut that down, close that down. And I'm like, okay, I still want to do clothing and stuff like that. So I'm going to kind of shut that down and just focus on building my own personal brand. So that's kind of like where I started just putting all my focus on myself, like our videos, and just put that aside, which was kind of hard because it's like you're firstborn and you're like just putting it down. You're like, okay, that's what it is. Accepting the failure. You can call it a failure, but I learned so much. I learned like I said earlier, like when you learn something from a failure, like it's really not a failure, because then you can just correct the mistakes that you made into the next thing that you do.
Sure. With gear, I know that was one of the first when we first met that you were starting that, and that was kind of your thing you were chasing really hard. How many different products did you make? What did you ever make any money from it? Was it one of those things like you just ordered samples and wore them in all your content, and then people never ordered it, or did you actually get orders through your website?
So like it was, it went pretty good for the first company that I tried to start. I was doing a lot of TikTok stuff. I did a little bit of the affiliate ambassador stuff where people sign up, they get 20% off. I did a lot of that. I did stringers, shorts, a couple different iterations of leggings and sports bras, hoodies. I got into kind of like a little bit of all of it.
Sure.
But I didn't really get too far into it. It was more of kind of like a project I was doing in college. And it was nice to like have all my inventory under my bed and like have all my friends buy it, have family. It was like I'd do a drop, friends and family would buy it. They'd all wear it. Word could spread around Simpson, or, I would sell the rest on social media and just kind of like make a bunch of different videos about it.
Sure.
So kind of like that. Like I would say like I didn't like make a living off of it. Like I was able to make some money, but then I would use it at college because I definitely didn't do like all the legality things about it. You know, I didn't know anything. So it's just like I set up a Shopify store. I'd order stuff from China, do some marketing, and it'd come right to my bank account.
Sure. No, it's always fun just to kind of test it out because then you learn maybe we shouldn't go with like 10 SKUs of 10 different products. Like with your new brand, it's like shorts. We're going to just do shorts to start, figure this out, and then start to like, you learn these different things that you didn't know before. Or like when we were in college, one of my senior program or project was the C-Suite agency or C-Street agency, excuse me. We used to call it Jolt Marketing back when I was in college, but they changed the name. It's still a thing now. But it was like, we're going to be a marketing agency. We're going to offer web design, graphic design, copywriting, video production, photography. It's like, no, one thing. We do photography or we do website design. That's it. One thing, get really good at it, and then branch and start to do other things, which I think is big. Like I took that into my current company. It's like, all we do is video production, but now we're starting to add like marketing strategy consults, or we're doing podcast production for people because it makes sense, or content retainers or photography. Like things can branch, but you need to really master and be known for one thing before you go, doing other things. So I think that's a big lesson to learn.
Yeah. Like when you said like you learn the mistakes, I remember I ordered like, 50 different things of leggings. I had never ordered samples. So I learned order samples.
Yeah, always do the samples.
I ordered a bunch of these and I got them and they felt like book cover material. And I'm like, I can't sell this.
Sure.
I at least had that kind of like moral compass to like not just sell it just because I ordered it. Sure. I had to just take the L on that.
Well, and the commitment to it. I know I've listened to other podcasts like Christian Guzman, who owns Alpha Elite Athletics, which huge Alpha Elite fan. My whole like coming into this life. My couple biggest gripes though is every time they drop, it's new products with new fits. Like you can I have a gray T-shirt that I bought in like 2010 that I love from them. I'll never get that shirt again because they never drop the same product. They never hold inventory. It's always new stuff. But the thing that Christian said on his interview, which I thought was super powerful to this conversation, was like when he had his first drop, he got shitty samples and he'd used almost all of his money he had. And he had a friend of his say like, dude, if your first introduction to the world is going to say everything about this brand, like if your first drop is like the stitches are falling out, the logo's ironed on backwards, like they put it on and it falls apart in 3 washes, like no one's ever going to buy from you ever again. Like you have to do it right. So then he went, scraped some more money together, got the right batch, launched it. And now the brand's worth like probably $300-400 million, whatever the brand's worth now. So it's worth it. Like you said, that first iteration is really important, and then you just keep going from there. So
and I heard he spends like $20,000 on buying other companies' stuff, or just to like feel how theirs compares to theirs.
Yep, absolutely.
And I'm like, that's like such a commitment to wanting to be the best.
Sure. When I look at companies like Lululemon or other ones where it's like their product is the top notch, like it's ridiculously priced, and I always said that about leggings, and then Paige dragged me in there and I put on like guys clothing. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it's $180 for a freaking pair of pants. But I'm like, I could get 3 pairs of these pants and that's all I wear ever. Like, it's one of those things. You forever. Yeah, they'll last me 10 years or whatever. Like same thing with like buckle jeans. I love buckle jeans because they're a little more pricey, but again, they last super long. You go to Levi's or you go to, department store, your jeans will fall apart after a year. They'll shrink or whatever. So I think it's interesting that way. As we're just kind of talking a little bit more, what's the piece that you would say for the social media marketing, like the future of how you want to go about marketing yourself and putting out kind of content for your own personal brand here?
So really, like I said, is like not chasing any type of like validation with views. Like I'm chasing so much more significance on being an impact on people, and not really caring about like how much of the view count on the video was. Like if I truly believe that the video was valuable and can help at least one person, I'm like, that's a successful video, and just not really chasing the views, only letting videos that I want to see. Like I'm going to create for myself because there's a lot of people who are just like me. And so those people who are like me will gravitate towards me, and that's how I'm going to like build a community. Like I've done very well at building a following, but a following is so much different than building a community. Like a following is just the number behind your account, your following account. Like, but how many people are going to support you by using your code or buy from your clothing brand? Just like really realizing like I've been just building a following. People who saw one video thought it was funny, followed, but do they know who like I am? So kind of like being a lot more vulnerable with talking about my story, like who I am as a person. We did a little bit of that with the mic'd up stuff in the gym, just showing our interactions, but really just trying to give like insightful things about like what I've learned throughout the years, like, a lot with my journey growing up, and just giving a lot more stuff like that. If I don't have a video for that day, I don't have a video for that day, just not really just making a less quality video just to have the quantity behind it. A lot of people believe in quantity over quality. For me, I'm like, I want to have more quality with the context or the content in the video and with like the editing behind it. Like I want to put more time into it and just have it be more of a well put together than just something that I made on TikTok using a sound that's going to get me 3,000 views, but with 0 comments,
Sure. Because I know in terms of like where you stand, like Instagram, TikTok, what are your following numbers at right now currently with those channels?
So before we took a break on social media, I was at like 72, but then that dropped down to like 68. So when you don't post forever, it kind of drops down. So I'm at like 68 on Instagram.
68,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think 200,000 on TikTok. And then I only have like 1.5K on YouTube. But my focus is short form content versus like long form.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get more into like the long form stuff.
Sure. So, I mean, do you even like realize the magnitude of those numbers? Like 200,000 people follow you on TikTok.
Yeah, I definitely.
Like, does that even like, because I know like people, and I've noticed this with creators in general, they say like 10K or 200K, like you're not realizing it's 200,000 people know who you are. Like that's wild. Did you even compute like how many people that is?
Honestly, like really no, not as much as like you would think. But I think it really comes to like realization when someone comes up to you in person. Like when you have like I remember I'm at the gym. I usually work out at one gym in Spirit Lake, but then I went to a different one and I had kids come up to me like, "Oh, I watch your videos." And I'm like, "What?" Or like we come to Des Moines and then someone's commenting like, "I saw you guys at Target." Just kind of like realizing like people actually like, kind of recognize us and like more of just like not just seeing our videos. Like that's kind of like where it kind of hits on you, but it doesn't really like feel different at all. Like I remember I had someone like ask one of my coworkers who went to high school with me. They asked if I was like a douche now because I have a following. And I was like kind of confused by that. I'm like, it's just a number. If it changes, if a number behind your following changes who you are, that was inside you all along. I'm like, I'm not like that. Like, I just do this because I love it. Like, I've been doing this since I was 14 years old, just making content because I love it. I'm not chasing a following. If I was, I would have quit.
Sure. Well, and it's people say like money or fame or whatever always just exploits who you truly were.
Yeah.
Like people say, like I said earlier, people assume everyone that's wealthy is a douchebag because they've seen people and they want you to be because then they can hate you more. Where if you're like still a nice dude and you give a bunch of money to philanthropy or whatever, it's like, well, dang it, now I don't have anything to hate this guy for. Like it's not.
It's weird.
It's such an interesting thing. But I mean, even with my like, I run the largest Facebook group in the world for videographers. There's 94,000 people in my group. Wow. And it never like sticks in my head of like how much influence I have there because people will comment on like I'll post something and people like attack me on my own page. Like they don't even realize I'm the admin. I'm the guy that started the whole group. They'll be like picking my work apart. I'll post stuff in there. I'll do whatever. And then like my kind of people will come and be like, my like posse will like be like, hey, like this dude runs this group. Like we're talking to him and like, oh, sorry. Like I didn't realize. It's like they're like at my house party, but they didn't even realize like it's my house type thing. It's like that. Like
that shows
all the
that
time.
You have a community.
Yeah.
So, which is really cool.
Right.
Like I would say like realizing the first time I had like influence was when I was working at the amusement park. I went to Casey's and some kid came out to me. And the thing about that, which was like kind of significant about it, was I was high at the time. And I'm like, this 13-year-old kid came out to me and said like, I watch your videos. I'm like, I need to do better. Like I'm an influence on these kids who could, take the content that I'm making and with the actions that I'm making outside of that content and like realizing like people are looking towards me and like taking the influence seriously and kind of like that's where like a lot of the character development is helping so much because like I want to be a good influence on people because there's so much like negative in this world. There's so many people who have such high influence that do nothing with it.
Sure.
They'd rather just glorify their own name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to glorify God a lot with like my content. Is just like bring people life instead of like just take validation from them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like what drives me nuts is like famous people have so much influence to make such more positive impact. And they do nothing because they are living for the acceptance and they don't want to be rejected by whatever they want to push that's positive.
Sure. No, I love this, like where this conversation is going, because I was just talking about this with my wife, like Blake Lively, the actress who's married to Ryan Reynolds. She doesn't drink. Okay. She's like sober. She's never enjoyed alcohol, not a big drinker, maybe once or twice a year, something like that. She started an alcohol company. Like she started a seltzer beverage company. And I was talking to her about, like you said, this odd, like being who you actually are and not just like, oh, I have an audience, I should sell something to them. It's like, are you really truly being yourself? Because you're like, hey, and she'll even say like, I don't drink, but if I did, I would drink this. And it's like, you not even like doing an ad, you like created an entire company. It'd be like me starting like a freaking tampon company. And I'm like, I'm really, I don't have periods, but gosh darn it, if I did, this is what I would use. Like, what the hell? It's like so backwards.
That's crazy. I never heard about that.
No,
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And I love Blake Lively. She's like, people say like celebrity crush. Love her. I was like, she is awesome. Ryan Reynolds is awesome. But I'm like, just again, I lost a little bit of respect for it because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you have this amazing personal brand. You start a company that you have no connection or interest in. Or it's be like me, like I've never smoked weed, don't like it. That's not my thing. That'd be like me starting a cannabis company. I'm like, why would I ever do that? Like, this makes no sense at all. All right, now I need to start a freaking tampon and a cannabis company. I'll make them one product together. Yeah, you can use a tampon, you can smoke it and get high. That's that's a good idea. That's not a good idea.
And that thing that you talk about, like that's one of the things I'm trying to take and kind of like promote a lot is like I used to be addicted to smoking weed, and now I'm like kind of pushing and being vulnerable about my story, like how I got over that and like what that was like. And I think that's much more of like an impact for people because there's a lot of people who are like that. And being around a lot of people who smoke weed, they all want to quit. Sure. They just can't. They just can't find a thing. That was one of the first things that, before I gave my life to Jesus was like, that was the first thing I felt the Holy Spirit say to me was like, put it down, stop doing that. Obviously I didn't listen that night when did it, but over time I stopped doing that. Sure. And that's kind of like,
well, talk to me a little, because we'll get in the lightning round after this topic. I think it's a really big thing to hit on though, because again, people will pull things from this conversation. And I think if you can share a little bit about that journey for you, I think it could really help somebody that's going through a similar situation. Like when you were kind of doing the self-discovery, what was the process that got you to the point where you realized you needed to put it down and stop doing it because it was affecting your life negatively?
Yeah, so I got introduced to it in like high school. I used to be like so against smoking weed, but then like towards college, I liked doing it because it kind of let you escape reality for a little bit. You ease back, kind of like chill out. I never did anything like crazy with it, but just like the fact that I was escaping reality was why I was like convicted of it. She started introducing me to a lot of like church online. We're digging into a little bit deeper. Like I wasn't like all about it, but I was like, I'll sit down and watch it with you and stuff. But I remember I kept getting like videos on my phone of like how to stop smoking weed. It was all spiritual stuff. And then every time we listened to a sermon, it felt like they were saying a message that related to me, like kind of like, should I stop? Like, I feel like I am being told to stop doing this. And like one of the greatest videos I saw was like, do you need to stop smoking weed before you give your life to Jesus or go to church? It was like, do you have to get clean before you get in the shower? And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I told her, I was like, I feel like the Holy Spirit's telling me to stop smoking weed. And she's like, you got to listen to that, and that's kind of like the voice in your head calling you to be like your highest self. And that was the first time I had experienced that. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't really listen to it that time. I put it on voicemail, kind of like, okay, I hear this, but I'm not going to listen. So I went back home and did it for a while. But then there was like a weekend where I was with some friends and I was high, being around a lot of people who was like talking about like all the worldly things that like spirituality doesn't want to focus on, like women, sex, drugs, alcohol. And I felt the Holy Spirit again be like, none of this is you. This is all the things that you're going to unbecome to become the person like you were originally designed to be. So I started, I told her the next day, I was like, I'm going to like give my heart and my life to Jesus, not just as my savior, but as my Lord. Like, not just be like, oh, I'm going to heaven now. Like, I'm going to bring heaven to my life, to my earth, and try to like spread that. So that's where a lot of my content has gone towards, where I basically feel like, you know, you have like the cure to cancer. You're like, I want to give life to all these other people who are struggling with addiction, with, you know, so many other things where like I felt like I was chained to and like not being chained to. So like this past 6 months, I was like, they always say like, you want to become the person you want to be. Like, you know, sometimes you have to unbecome so many things that you're not meant to be, not meant to have inside you. So like kind of have like that entire heart posture change is why I went through the cleansing of all the videos I used to post. Like just really just having an entire different heart posture change has like completely changed my life, where I like, instead of kind of like listening to all the sermons and be like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, you know, like I surrendered. And that's where like everything changed for me. Like I am not the same person I was 6 months ago, and just kind of progressing into that character development, becoming a better boyfriend, future father, son, friend, employee, like all those things has completely changed my life. And like, that's probably like my biggest, like most grateful moment or accomplishment, I guess you could say. Cause like, I've always had like kind of that awareness of like spirituality and stuff like that, but really just like surrendering to it and accepting it to your heart, not just getting like a tattoo or putting it in your bio on Instagram. Like that's where it completely changes your life, and you can see like the fruit of that in people.
Sure. No, I love this like personal development process that you've gone through, because it's so interesting, because I had this conversation. I keep tying it to myself. I know I'll try to keep this one short, but as you're talking, I'm like thinking, because people think a lot about like what I like. They're like, oh, what should we get Ryan for Christmas, or what's he into? And it's like, I love my Jeep. I love bourbon. I love weightlifting, all these things, right? But I always said, like, if worst came to worst, I'd sell my Jeep and get a beater if it was, you know, if my family was needing money or whatever. If I was becoming an alcoholic and bourbon was getting in the way of me and my family, I'd never drink again. Like, I like it, but if it was one of those things that got in the way of what's really important, I would get rid of it. Same thing with fitness. Like, I love fitness. I used to watch, or I used to work out 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. Now I've got a 1.5-year-old son and a 1-month-old baby at home. Today I got a 15-minute workout in. I will take whatever I can get now. It's like you have these new relationships to the things that made you who you are. But now you're kind of going through the same journey with your story. It's like fitness has been all your life's been about, but now you're starting to uncover the different things. And it's not just like getting jacked for the sake of getting jacked, or losing weight to feel cool, or getting strong to get attention, or what. It's like, how is this affecting the rest of my life? How's it affecting my career and my business? Like my relationships with the people I care about, my substance abuse, whatever it is. It's like all of it's tied together, and you start to kind of figure out like, why do I like it? How does it make me feel better? And how can I give that to more people, which is super powerful.
Yeah. Like, just really unbecoming all those things that you're not meant to be was like such a freeing thing for me too. And like you said, like fitness is not who I am. That's for a lot of people, it's like what they do becomes their identity. It's like not just part of what you do. And that's kind of something that I've been trying to do also with like my branding. I told her, I was like, I don't want to just post fitness, and right now it kind of looks like I still do that, but like I do overnight stocking at Walmart and I go work out. Like there's really nothing else I do. So that's why I also do like these sit down videos or like content about like my spirituality to kind of like incorporate stuff like that. So just really trying to work on like my branding is Taylor Hereid, and fitness is part of that content stuff, but it's not like entirely like, oh, he's just a workout guy. Like, no, I just work out, and not just putting all my value in how I look. So that's where a lot of people run into is like they put all their value into how they look and their appearance. And that's where like body dysmorphia, eating disorders, and all those other things. And then when they get older, they have an identity crisis or if they get injured too, they have an identity crisis because all their value is in what they did. Sure.
No, and I think if you can separate yourself from, like you said, you guys took a break for 5 months, which is wild to even do that. Because I found myself in that in college when I was recording all my workouts. I was going to the gym to make content, not to escape from the stress of my day. get all the other benefits why I did it in the first place, which is why I've kind of like, there's been so many times where I've like considered recording a workout or doing a video, like making videos, but I'm like, I'm not doing this for other people. Like I'm doing it for me. And I had a lot of people online that when I did post a lot of that stuff, thought I was being an arrogant douche, but I'm like, I'm not doing it to like, be like, look at me without my shirt on. I'm like, I'm trying to motivate or inspire other people to like get in the gym and try to get better. That's all I'm trying to do. But people just didn't connect with it, which I think is super powerful.
You always have to look at people's heart posture with it. You're like, are they doing this because they're not being like modest? You know, like, are they doing it to flaunt what they look like? Or are they like I always said, like, I only post shirtless stuff is like because I used to be that chubby kid and I want to show like where I'm at now. And it's like a motivational piece. You know, I don't want people to compare myself to me, because that's where like the thief of joy comes from within themselves. So I just want to try to motivate people to get to look at where I was and where I'm at now to do the same.
Sure. Well, when I was doing my bodybuilding show, same thing. I was on a 3-month prep. I would post like what I was doing at a couple like cardio times. I'd be walking and I have all these thoughts. Again, you start doing the self-work, you start thinking of things. So I just like pull my phone out and start talking to it. So I'd do a little bit of that here and there, but I tried not to post a lot of like my progress because it was my own journey to go through. It's like, I'm not gonna be talking about it. Like I know, I'm in the trenches right now working on myself. Like I'm, waiting until I'm on the stage when I can kind of reflect a little bit. So that kind of helped a lot there too.
Yeah. And I remember my mom would always tell me like, yo, you should be a fitness trainer and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not me. Like, I don't know the scientific background, the nutritional stuff. Like, I just eat in a calorie deficit, work out, and I lose weight. Like, I don't trust all of my knowledge enough to put somebody else in the position where they're paying me for my knowledge. Like,
sure.
Just kind of like you said, like not doing it, just doing it for yourself. I'm not going to do this for other people because I don't trust that I know everything.
Sure. Well, I had a little stint where I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, I love fitness. I should do it. I should be a trainer or whatever. I helped train 2 people, not officially, like they paid me a little bit, but not enough. Like I wasn't certified or anything, but I realized really quickly I could never do it because people don't have the motivation that I did, or they thought if I throw money at this problem, it'll just go away.
Yep.
And there's so much other stuff that has to go into like, you want to have to be there. Like, I don't want to be drill sergeant yelling at you to do like, if you have a diet plan and you're not following it, that tells me that you're not serious about this, or you even try. Like, your cheat day is on Friday and you still went out to eat 3 days this week. And then you're like mad at me because you gained weight since the last week. And it's like, I can't work with people like that. Like, and I just knew right away, I'm like, I'll be so just like in a rut all the time of like, why don't they care as much as I do? Like, I'm just never going to do it. Like if they care, they'll do it. So this is great. So I think we'll jump into the lightning round here to break it up here. We're coming up on the end here. We'll ask you some quick questions. You can 1-word answer them. You can 1 sentence if you want to go 5 minutes per one, whatever you want to do, whatever feels good. First question, favorite music genre?
Christian rap or country.
Okay.
Like I'm getting into like kind of like the Lumineers type music, more of like folk, not country. Sure. Like I really like that type of stuff.
Sure. That was my next question, was like artists in that genre that you like. So Lumineers, that'd be good. Yeah. What's your like go-to like workout playlist or song that you like that when you need a little dose of motivation, you'll actually turn it on?
Deep End by Lecrae.
Okay. Love it. Okay. Next one. If you could live anywhere, where would you live?
I would say in a camper van in some state in the mountains with the mountains.
Okay.
That's kind of
van life is appealing to you?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Like I think we went to like South Dakota, Colorado, and like I just loved every second of it. I'm like, I literally would put a tent up and just be here. Yep. And she's all about it too. She's like, I don't care where we're at. Like, I just want to be together. Like,
see, that could be you could be doing boulder presses out in the freaking mountains. That'll be your unique thing as cool landscapes and fitness. That could be cool. My wife and I can never do it because she has like 120 pairs of shoes. Where the hell are they going to go? They need a separate van for just all of her shoes. So
I said we should get like an apartment and then buy one and then do like a couple months, not just like full time.
Sure.
Because I don't think she's like, I need my water filtered shower head.
There you go.
I'm like, I can shower in the lake. I don't care.
Sure. Advice to young men battling low self-esteem, or things that you learned in your process of self-discovery that you would pass on to a younger version of yourself.
I would say find something that you can make progress every single day and that will kind of build your confidence and give you a reason to kind of get up every day and to work towards something. For me, it was like fitness, and it doesn't even have to be like lifting weights. You can do any type of exercise, like I always said, is like I hated lifting in high school. I just had to find the way I like to work out. That could be rock climbing, anything. I would say just find anything that you can make some sort of incremental progress on that will build your confidence over time, and understand that like you're not going to feel the gratification right away. Find something that has delayed gratification that will, in the progress, build so much more confidence in you.
Love it. Would you rather be ripped and not physically strong, or like just pudgy and gross looking, but you could pick up a truck?
That's a hard one. I would say ripped and not very strong, but that's why I like bulking and cutting, because in the summertime I'm not as strong, but in the wintertime I like lifting the heavy weights.
Sure, that's great.
So you get a little bit of both.
See, in the winter, you're all bulked up. If you get stuck, you can like pick your car up out of a ditch, but in the summer, it's like, oh, I got to go swim to save someone. I'm lighter, I'm faster. It makes sense. That's a good way to go. Who was your biggest social media influencer inspiration early on that made you want to start doing what you're doing?
I would say one would be Ryan Dangler. He was like an original athlete, or I'm trying to think. I would say like the David Lades, kind of like that OG Gymshark era.
Matt Ogus, those types of guys.
Yeah, like I would say a lot. It's kind of like a combination of a lot of people. But I can't remember the exact video I saw of like a 1-year body transformation where I was like, I want to do this.
Sure. Oh, I love it. That's the conclusion of the lightning round. Congratulations. You made it out unscathed. To kind of tie it all together, tell me a little bit about current day. You mentioned you're doing overnight stocking at Walmart, working on the business. Tell me a little bit about Volumes and what that is.
Yeah, so Volumes is kind of the clothing brand that me, Kayla, and my childhood best friend had started. As I started to build my following, I messaged him. I was like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about, starting up something else from Gear Athletics. Like I said, I wanted to grow my following first so that I could kind of like use that as a marketing piece. And he's a graphic designer. And he's like, dude, I've been thinking the same thing, because he does a lot of freelance stuff. He sees the money people make from his designs. So he's like, I want to do the same thing, and so we kind of like all became like 3 co-owners to start Volumes. And what I see in a lot of clothing brands is like they kind of have like the name, they have the nice material, but there's really like no message behind a lot of it. It's kind of just like we put our brand name on it, and that's kind of like where they leave it. We want to have great quality, and we want to spread so much more of like a positive message behind it. Like I always say, there's a quote from the movie, I think it was Burnt. It was like a cooking movie. He's like, I want to make food that makes people stop eating. So like I want to make content and then have cool designs that have a cool message that makes people like stop what they're doing, like think about like what that was and what they just watched or read.
Sure.
So like,
what is the message that's going to freeze people, or the thing that's behind the brand that you want people to know, or the vision of what it will be?
Yeah. So like it's more of like a streetwear kind of grungy look. Because that's kind of like his style of designing, because he's kind of like the visual creative director, I guess you could say, with the designs. And then Kayla and I are doing a lot of the video stuff, the content, and we're at the very beginning stages of all this, so we haven't really gotten super deep into it. We've done one drop of mesh shorts, which are kind of like one of those pieces where it doesn't have like a message or anything. But we want to get into like making a lot of cool graphic tees, basically focusing so much on the material, and then have like some cool message. And it's really like what we said, like with the past few months or year, we're doing a lot more of like soul work. So we're trying to bring like kind of like not just like, fitness, you're like working on your mind and your body. Like we want to promote mind, body, and spirit, bring all those 3 together to make like a complete person, and kind of promote a lot of messages that can help people kind of work towards that, or to, I guess, speak to them deeper than just like the surface level.
Sure. That speaks volumes to me. So I think that's a great message.
We kind of like thought it was like, it's not volumes like loudness or quietness. It's like chapters, like volume 1. We go through a lot of chapters in our life.
See, that's so much better than having a steroid innuendo as your name.
Yeah.
Great job. You learned something. This is great.
Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the samples. Like our kind of like thing is like this collection is intended to reach the soul. So like we really kind of want to push that. That's kind of like our, I guess, our motto for each collection. That's our goal for each collection.
So would you say it's following kind of, for people that are just listening, it's like more the oversized streetwear. That's kind of the style, right?
I would say, yeah, that's kind of like the direction we're going with it. But like the shirts, we want to have it be like such nice material where it's like, you can wear this to the gym as a pump cover. You can wear this on a date, wear it to, the bar if you go there. You can just wear it all different rooms. And that's kind of like what we're trying to go for. But kind of like where we're at right now is trying to come up with content before we really have like a whole storefront of clothing. Kind of like give people so much more value and then like have them see a piece of our content and then go to our page and be like, oh, they sell clothes too.
Yeah.
And kind of be known by that from the content that we post and then have like really nice clothing too. Because I want our content to promote the clothing instead of just like have like an ad where it's just like close-ups of the clothes and stuff like that.
Sure. No, it's super interesting like how the brand's going because like you said, most places would just go like, I think of like Lululemon, like their main core audience is like yogi people, like upper echelon white chicks that like the yoga pants. Like that's kind of their audience, right? I don't really relate to that, whatever, but it's like the clothing is super comfortable. And I get that. Like that appeals to everyone. Where you talk about like when I was in middle school, I had bought a shirt or high school had put on a shirt that was like Affliction or American Fighter or something. And I wore it out one night and someone like got in my face and was like, why are you wearing that shirt? And I was like, what are you talking about? And like, apparently that brand meant that it's like tap out, like it's like a fighter brand. So if you wear that, you can't wear it unless you're like a wrestler or a fighter. And if you aren't, then someone's just going to pick a fight with you because you got to prove the fact you're wearing the shirt. It's like, there's this whole like brand ideology I wasn't even aware of. And like you put it on my chest, like how stupid of that. Yeah. So I think it's interesting, like as you're building this like brand around self-improvement, like not just the fitness side. Cause I think like you said, it can tie into the spiritual side, the emotional side, the relationship side, like a personal development brand that happens to sell gym clothes, but it's like that's a piece of it, not the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like where we're kind of going towards. And we're like I said, we're at the very beginning stages of things. And like when we took a break off social media, we took a break from everything. We didn't, do any of the business stuff. We took a break from everything because we hit like a little rough patch in our relationship. So we wanted to like put all focus on that. And just if we're not good, then nothing else that we're doing is good. Sure. And just also just having like my best friend, being not only just friends, but business owners and have them being so patient with us to like I want y'all to be good so that all of us can be good for this. And just like that was because a lot of people would be like getting frustrated that we're not doing anything and just like kind of like being put back into like a waiting season of like, when can we get things going again? Just that was definitely a huge blessing to have like this more of like the support versus like, the stress of like, when you guys coming,
Sure. Well, just imagine if you hadn't pressed pause on everything and you're like doing couples content daily for chasing views. But again, like if you had an argument or you're trying to put a front out because we're known for doing couples content and this is what we do and it's what the world expects of us. So we'll keep doing it. Like, I think there's so much power in saying like, it's okay to press pause, recede, work on yourself and whatever part of life you're needing to work on and move forward when you're ready. I think that's a super powerful sentiment because so many people just want to go and feel this like underneath the like surface pressure to just keep doing or performing and doing the thing they're known for because they don't want to like let anyone down,
Yeah. There's actually a YouTube couple that I used to watch and they came out after they like broke up. They're like, we were broken up for 4 months before we stopped posting together. Like they were acting like they were together for 4 months. And I'm just like, that's to me, like you get it's their job, but it's like you're being fake for the entire audience. Mm-hmm. You're selling a false like narrative. And that like it's like just be vulnerable with your audience and just be like, hey, we broke up. That and also with social media, you never post any of the bad stuff. So when something like that happens, if a couple does break up, everyone's like, what happened? Like so shocked, like on camera, everything looks so great. And it's like,
you see what you want us to see, or they want you to see.
Exactly. We're not going to post about our fights, and stuff like that. We're going to that's social media, just the art of it. Like, you're kind of showing a highlight reel of your life, and that's kind of like what all of it is. And some people are just shocked when stuff like that happens. And also just, being vulnerable about like our story and stuff like that as to like why we stopped and stuff like that, will help a lot of people have a more realistic view of who we are, and also just like of social media as a whole.
Sure. No, I love like that whole process, that self-discovery is so powerful. I really think there's gonna be a lot of people that benefit from this, because there's this under the surface, like, I have to do this or I have to put out a front. I always notice too, I can kind of see it because I spot these things quite a bit, but like girls specifically will post like, I haven't seen anything from them on social for like a year. And then all of a sudden it's like every day they're posting some story with all their friends and they're doing all this stuff, or they just moved to Nashville and now they've got like they're out for dinner with like 15 new friends. And I'm like, this is all show. Like, you're lonely as shit. You just like walked in, like you found one person you knew and now you're trying to look happy and like you're thriving. And it's like, it's okay to be like lonely and alone. Like, you just don't have to put on a front and pretend. Like, everyone's doing that is like pretending. Or Valentine's Day was here recent, and I'm like, I was telling Paige, because I told her in the morning when I woke up next to her, I'm like, happy Valentine's Day. And then later in the day, she's like, well, why didn't you post that online? I'm like, I don't have to, like, I live with you. I've loved you for 12 years. Like, I'm not like all the crap you see, the 14 paragraph sentence with all the 30 pictures from someone. They probably have a terrible relationship. They're just trying to make up for it. They're trying to put a front on. So it's like, it's like you said, these things are not reality. But I think there's another piece of it too, is like you said, just sharing the wins and the losses, and not everything has to be out there. Because I know like Paige and I talked years ago of doing like a family vlog, and I'm like, absolutely not. Because like, one, I don't want my kids in it if they don't, I don't want to put them on the internet if they don't want to be. And two, like I said, the inauthenticity. I'm like, there's times we'll have an argument. There's times we're so tired or can't do something, or I don't want to like go on vacation because it'll make a good thumbnail. Let's go to Hawaii because it'd probably get a lot of views. I'm like, I would want to go to Hawaii so I can actually enjoy things,
Yeah. You see a lot of fake on the internet, and I think the realest people are the ones who are the most successful. And the people can read behind like the fakeness, I think, a lot of times. And just being yourself is like one of the biggest cheat codes. Like, there's a guy in the fitness scene who just exploded, Sam Shulek.
Oh, absolutely.
The dude records with his iPhone. It's just him talking, saying some thoughts that comes to his head, talking about lifting, and he gets like 400,000 views.
And people are like, how can he keep getting away with this? They don't know how he's doing it.
Yeah.
He's just being himself. He's just a goofy, big-ass bodybuilder dude.
But a lot of people think like if he wasn't so jacked, like it might have not worked as well as it is. So that helping him so much, but just the fact that it's just he's not doing anything special. He's not talking in the exciting Mr. Beast voice trying to get people excited. He's just like, I'm driving to the gym. This is my pre-workout meal. This is my workout. He's lifting like 4 plates, but he's just being authentic. That's why he's just gotten so big.
Right.
And
he's just kind of like a big, awkward dude. Like the funny clips I always see are like when girls walk by him at the gym, because he'll be like, and just like walk away, like leave the room if they're in there, and people are like, God, this dude is like so free, but he's just like a big socially awkward, big old goober. So it's kind of funny in that way. Yeah,
and they're saying, I think on like somebody was saying he probably makes like $250,000 a month.
Just on the ad
just
revenue.
Being himself.
Yeah.
And he was like a concrete worker, like when he first started.
Yeah.
And so many people want to just like come on social media and just try to be somebody. But I think with me, I find certain people that I kind of like. I try to make content like them, but I think over the years you start to become like your own creative identity. And I think that's where the stage I'm at, where I have kind of learned a lot from following certain people and then trying to become my own creative identity, and like really just coming to realization where it's like I need to not put on like a front or for certain things, like for the clips that we did in the gym, and just really like be authentic. Like, I don't have a video today, so I'm not gonna post one. Yeah. I'm not gonna just come up with something or not be real about what's going on.
Sure. I think it's worth mentioning too, what would be your advice for people that are getting in that rabbit hole or that chasing the hamster wheel of views, or even worse, like they have the virality and now they're just chasing money. Like, rage bait people of like cut their shoes off or on the bottoms and try, like, what advice would you have to someone to avoid going down that rabbit hole of despair?
I would say figure out like why you're doing this. Like I said, I had to go back to like 10-year-old Taylor and be like you're good. Like people see you. Like, you know, you don't have to feel that way. Like you don't need to, like, just because you didn't get to like play, like doesn't mean people didn't see you. Like your valuable is not in the playing time or, you know, the views that you're getting behind your videos, and just really figure out like why are you doing this. And I have like a couple core values for like making my content. It's like, don't do things just for views. Views doesn't equal value. Don't drop your core morals or values to get views. Trying to think of a couple others, like don't, or make content for yourself. Like I said, like if you create for everyone, you create for nobody.
Right.
And then for the money part is really just a lot. I've found that like money is more of like people's lord than anything. Like they'll do anything for money, and they'll even drop their core values because it's making them money, or they'll do certain things. Like I get you got to make a living. Yeah. But like at what cost does that bring to your soul? Sure. You know, like she's had to unfollow so many girls on Instagram because they drop their morals and they make an OnlyFans. Yeah. And it's like, that's going to cost you so much more than the money that you're going to make from that. And just really just detaching yourself from the monetary thing, because if you're only doing something for money, it's never going to satisfy you. Sure. Because money never satisfies you. The views will never satisfy you. You're just going to keep chasing it until you hit like a bottomless, like, or you're going to hit rock bottom eventually. Yeah. Like I've discovered that like humans, you know, with my spiritual discoveries, is like humans were created for infinite desire because we were created by the only one who can satisfy the infinite desires that we have. But we often like chase all these worldly things like money, relationships, you know, like I said, views, so many things to kind of like fill those desires. But we always discover like none of those will ever satisfy us. And like I said, like we're like a cup that we're all broken in some way. We have holes in it. But like when you try to fill your cup with like money, all these worldly things, it's just gonna fall out of the cup. Mm-hmm. But if you like fill yourself with, you know, the Holy Spirit, God, all, you know, Jesus, he patches those holes up and fills it, and it never runs dry. That's like kind of like the biggest thing that I've realized, you know, with the chasing of the views and money. Sure.
No, it's super, super powerful. And I think that's an interesting take on just the cutting your soul apart for one worldly thing. It's like, what? Or the, you know, you see, I think of like the OnlyFans example is a really good one. I have a friend of mine that I'm friends with her on social media. We've done some shoots together. She's a model, and she's admittedly had an eating disorder, if I can get the words out, has a terrible self-esteem. She'll post very revealing pictures just to get validation that she's pretty, whatever. She went on like a complete like no in social media for like 2 years. And now she's back posting daily, and she has an OnlyFans. And I'm like, you clearly are doing this for the wrong reasons. Like it's just like constantly chasing validation. But it's like when you go down that route, there's never a winning way to get there. Cause it's like worst case scenario. Bad scenario. You put yourself out there, you cut your soul apart, and no one buys it. So now you're like trying to promote something and you're not making any money from it. And you've already sacrificed who you are and your soul and your values. The worst example is you go viral, you become super popular. There's thousands and thousands of people that are subscribing, and there's this constant need for more and more and more. And then you maybe started doing one thing, and you'll do more and you'll do more. And then what happens? You're making millions a year. You quit your job. You're on a yacht, but it's blood money. It's like you've sold your soul for a boat. Like, what are you doing with your, you know, it's like, oh my God. And I just remember because there's a documentary I watched on Hulu. It's the OnlyFans documentary of how they followed a couple creators.
And what sucks about that whole company is they said, we're not going to no longer allow this. But they realized like,
no more adult content. And they're like, that's 99% of their users, and it's gone.
You know, if I were them, I would rather just sell the company off and not have that be tied to me. Sure. You know, and one of the things I like always talk about and push is like, we got to raise these men up to not even have a market for that stuff. Sure. You know, because if there's no one buying that stuff, there's no need or market for it,
Sure. It's an interesting one. I talked to some people, and a lot of people like to be very PC about it or vanilla and say, like, do whatever you want to do, go get your money. And it's like,
at what cost?
It's at what cost? I mean,
You're selling your soul.
People know it's not the right thing to do, but people still buy it. People know it's not the right thing to do. They still post it, whatever. And I think it's interesting because one of the creators on that documentary I was looking at, she was talking about it's like life-changing money. She was making like $8,000 a month. And I was like cracking up because I'm like, you could just go start a business doing something you enjoy, a passionate thing, and you could make that money. Like,
I've always said that about like drug dealers. It's like you clearly have an entrepreneurial mindset. Like, just go do it legitimately, and where you're not going to like hate yourself at the end of it because you're going to gain the world, but all you're going to do is lose yourself.
Sure. Yeah, you're so good in business, you've addicted your entire neighborhood to crack, and it's like, at what cost? It's like, okay, like I'm rich, but everyone I know is about to die from an overdose because I sell poison to people. It's like it's pretty crazy. So I think we could talk even more and more. Where can people find more from you? Like, where would you send people if they're interested in learning more about you?
Yeah, it's just all my social medias is Taylor Hereid, Hereid. It's no one's ever gonna know how to spell that, but yeah, like.
So join the club of the awkward last name club.
Yeah, seriously. But yeah, I mostly do short form content just because I think that's really where it's at, and short form content has opened up the door for so many people to be discovered and businesses to be discovered. It like remove the entire barrier of entry to any sort of market or industry or niche that you want to get into. So yeah, I focus on short form content right now, but I'm trying to get into like YouTube. So I also have YouTube.
Sure. Well, once we're done recording, I'll have to give you some tips on YouTube because I know a little bit about that stuff. So thank you so much, man, for coming on. We'll put links to the company and to yourself and everybody in the description box as well. So cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a 5-star rating and tune in next week on Monday. We'll have another episode for you guys ready to go. My name is Ryan Snod at Rhymes with Odd. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Rhymes with Odd podcast. We really do appreciate your support. If you could give us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes, that makes a world of difference, guys. Also, if you're tuning in on YouTube or Spotify, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and check us out on social media. Also, if you'd like to inquire more about our services here at Snod Media Group or learn about doing your own podcast for your own business, you can find us at snodmedia.com. See you in the next episode. Peace.